You know what's kind of terrifying? Some Chinese officials genuinely believe Donald Trump is a brilliant strategist. They don't realize that he's just a loudmouth idiot in a golf shirt with a Twitter account posting all day and night long. They think that he's dealing some sort of long term game with them. But here's the truth: Trump is an idiot. He's just a loudmouth who's failed over and over again in business. And the only reason he's not homeless on the streets is because his father gave him hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's the floor that he has to work from. When he entered into the presidency, he had no plan. He had no strategy. His goal was only driven by hate-filled voters. He had no knowledge of global economy or politics. He didn't write a white paper after his first administration. He's just a loudmouth in a golf shirt with a Twitter account. Look, we already know what your crazy MAGA uncle is saying. Trump's a genius. He's schooling those people over there in China. They're fallen victim to his strategy. They're not. What they're falling victim to is the fact that culturally, they just cannot see him as anything other than the president of the United States. They don't separate the title from that guy in a golf shirt. Here's the only advantage that Trump has over China. China's confused. They just don't, it's a cultural barrier. They're not going to see the leader of a major company as the village idiot. If you read any analyst information that comes out of Beijing, you'll see words like erratic and improvised or amateur. It's just not what they would expect from somebody at that level of world politics. Here's the kicker, and this is something that your MAGA uncle thinks is Trump's strategy. China doesn't understand this nonsense. They want there to be a plan here. They don't realize that it's just the erratic ranting of some old guy in a golf shirt yelling at the clouds. Here's a bit of a wake-up call for everyone watching this in the United States, especially if you've never left the United States. There's a lot of propaganda around the world targeted towards the United States and from the United States targeted to other people. China is not a land of rice paddies and people in martial arts classes like your kung fu movies. China's a booming economy. There are more people in the middle class in China and India than the entire population of the United States. And here's another wake-up call for your MAGA uncle. His president is not the leader of the free world. He's just the president of the United States. And that power is eroding every single crazy tweet and every single crazy erratic strategy put together by some amateur. And that's the problem that Beijing has to deal with. They can't comprehend culturally what they're dealing with. And then they see stuff on the news. They see press releases. They see advisors who, when you look at their resume, they did really good stuff 4, 5, 10, 12 years ago. But now they're on the Trump train, and it's very difficult to comprehend what the hell's going on. Your crazy MAGA uncle will never admit this. And it's hard for someone in Beijing to understand this. Trump doesn't understand what a tariff is and how it works. There's a confusion that what he was saying on the campaign trail was just a lie to sucker the rubes in the Midwest to vote for him. A lot of it is true. He's just wrong. Why do people who know better vote for him? Because whatever he has on them, whatever they want from him, they want to stay in power, continue to have power, and grow in wealth. So they're riding along on his train. There's no ramification for them if he fails. They just hop off. They've got their power, their wealth, their reelection. It's all on him. If you're in the Trans-Pacific, you hear and see everything going on and you think there must be something. There must be. When you talk about Trump and your sentence includes the phrases, look, there must be blank, there's not, unless there must be craziness driving this. There is no plan. There is no goal. It's erratic. No one in the real world expects a tariff signed yesterday to cause a factory to be built today. Even if a factory could be built today, there's no one here looking for those jobs. If you look at what it takes just to make an iPhone, the Wall Street Journal did a great report on it earlier this week, not just on the iPhone itself as a complete unit, but all the major subcomponents and all the effort it takes in terms of robotics, people to operate those machines. As we just heard from a member of Trump's cabinet, all the people in the United States that are going to be tightening little screws on iPhones. There is not a wave of people looking for those jobs. And that's part of the American MAGA Trump arrogance. The expectation that somebody doing that little job with those screws is uneducated. They're not. They're technical labor who have jobs that require not only a lot of technical skill, but the desire to have that job and want to have an incredible level of accuracy and efficiency when they start work and when they end work. That is not the typical American worker. The typical American worker is lazy, they're underskilled, and there's people fighting for them to be even less skilled. And those are the people that want tariffs. Those They're not creating an economy of people who want those jobs. The economic fallout for America is very much two very different camps. There are people who are MAGA cultists who were screaming under the past president about the price of eggs and the price of everything in the grocery store and the price of everything in Walmart. And now they're screaming that they're happy to pay double and triple. They're screaming that they're happy that their 401k has been reduced because they'll make more later when it bounces back up. You know what? If it didn't crash, it wouldn't have had to bounce back up. It could have kept on going. I don't recall anyone voting. They were screaming eggs months ago. They weren't screaming, let's crash the stock market. There's a phrase that anyone watching this, if you're not MAGA, understands. It's move the goalpost. If you're a MAGA cult person, you know that no matter what I say to you, you have a list of 20 things. And in the end, you just change the topic. And the one right before that, you just scream and yell. Look, your MAGA uncle is a crazy cult member. Here's all you have to do with deal with them. Just remember a few phrases. Hi, can you cite your sources? When it comes to the China crisis, the stock market, 4D chess, just ask them a question. When did this come up before the election? When was this planned? And then here's the other one. Ask them the question, who's paying these tariffs? I thought it was going to be the foreign country. I don't hear anything about China paying tariffs. And here's the other thing about the tariffs that the Chinese people have a hard time understanding. They're used to the United States being rational. The way this should have been done. Let's say I agree with the tariffs. Okay, I agree with them 100%. How should it have been done in a rational world? You release a document, you publish it, you put out a bunch of facts, you say what we're going to do, you publish your formula, you say when it'll be reconsidered in the future. But here's something else that your crazy MAGA uncle doesn't know about, and he'll probably deny it when you tell him. In the first administration, if you got hit by a tariff, you just applied for a waiver. And if you were politically connected, your connection in Congress, the representative or senator would go over to the White House or their representative and say that we got a large donation, and they would be given an exception. Most of the exceptions were given to foreign countries. Most of the exceptions that were denied to American companies who didn't pay for them. So a lot of the tariff hyperbole from the first administration that you hear referenced, just ask the question, what about the exceptions? And your MAGA uncle will change the topic. So just remember, if you're watching this from Beijing, there's a crazy person in a golf shirt that's probably equivalent to your village idiot. It's not equivalent to your leadership.